Are you sad that Turbo Initiative got banned in Pauper in late 2022? Well, fear not, you can still play it in Wizard's favorite format, Commander, with what I like to call Flicker Through the Dungeon. You're playing Azorius Flicker, and you're playing initiative cards. Now, to start, your commander is Abdel Adrian, Gorion's Ward, a Battle for Baldur's Gate card. Shocker. It's on theme with flickering and playing initiative. But what he says when he enters, exile any number of other non-land permanents you control until he leaves the battlefield. Create a 1/1 white soldier creature token for each permanent exiled this way. So what this means is he enters the battlefield, you cast him from the commander zone, you get him on some other way, like entering through Flicker. He eats up all your creatures and all your artifacts and all your non-lands, and he makes a bunch of 1/1 white soldiers. And then he leaves the battlefield somehow. I don't know, maybe somebody kills him, maybe you flicker him. I don't know. And he brings them all back out. They all have ETB effects. And yeah. And because he is a Battle for Baldur's Gate commander, he has a background. And just going to play Candlekeep stage. It fits the blue color identity for Flicker. And it has, when this creature enters or leaves the battlefield, draw a card. So you're just getting extra draws every time you flicker. Onto the Flicker cards. There are quite a few of them. And we're going to start with Blur because it's in alphabetical order. Blur, Flicker, draw a card, essentially. I mean, I could say exile target creature you control, then return it. This line of text means Flicker, and then draw a card. Flicker, draw a card. Charming Prince is a creature that when he enters, you flicker. So, eat him with Abdel, Flicker Abdel, Charming Prince comes back, he flickers Abdel again. Cloud Shift says Flicker. Ephemerate says Flicker. And it has Rebound. And it's a Pauper staple for Azorius Flicker, or any white Flicker deck. Felidar Guardian, when it enters, Flicker. Flicker of Fate, guess what it does? It flickers. Ghostly Flicker, flicker two things. So you can untap a land by flickering it and Abdel Adrian. Justiciar's Portal, exile target creature you control, then return to the battlefield. It gains first strike too. Not really important because there's no way to give haste in this deck. Although you could if you want to. Lae'zel's Acrobatics. Roll a d20. If you roll 1 through 9, flicker creatures. If you roll 10 through 20, flicker and then flicker again. Momentary Blink. Flicker with flashback for blue. Wow. Planar Incision. I don't know why I read inclusion. Flicker and then give the creature +1/+1. Pretty relevant because you flicker him the next turn and the 1/+1/+1 counter's gone, but it's there for a bit. Restoration Angel, Flash Flying. When it enters, flicker a non-angel. Good thing Abdel Adrian is a human warrior. Scroll Shift, flicker, and then draw a card. Ooh. Slip on the Ring, flicker, and then the ring tempts you, which you might just want to talk to your commander group beforehand and say, can I just not have the ring tempt me because it's a really weird and obscure mechanic and I don't understand it. Which is true, I don't. That's why I don't play these cards. Because the ring tempts you makes no sense. And then Soul Hoarder, whenever a creature is exiled from the battlefield, i.e. through flickering effects, at the beginning he gets a 1/1, which is nice. And then at the beginning of your end step, you can flicker. And Splash Portal, new card from Bloombro, flicker. If it's a bird, frog, otter, or rat, draw a card. Which for 1 mana is actually like insane value, seeing as the white flicker cards like Ephemerate and Cloud Shift are also 1 mana. But they don't draw you a card. But that's only for frog, otter, birds, and rats, which I don't know, maybe you're playing frog, flicker, and standard. In which case, good job. Good job to play standard. But yeah, a bunch of flicker, blink effects. They all pretty much do the same thing with some additional effects. Onto the initiative and dungeon. So I don't think there were really like enough initiative cards. You could probably force all of them in. But there are some good enter the dungeon or explore the dungeon cards from the, I don't know what set it's called, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna find it. Forgotten Realms. Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. That's it. I found this site because I literally googled this earlier. Because when I was building the deck, I was also trying to find if you could enter the Undercity. Apparently you can't. So if you enter the dungeon while you're not in a dungeon, you have to go to the Dungeon of the Mad Mage, the Lost Mine of the Fan Delver, or Tome of Annihilation. All of these are alright, not as good as the Undercity though. And then if you're already in the Undercity, when you enter the dungeon, you keep going through the Undercity till you're done it. Same thing with the initiative and going through Tome of Annihilation or the original dungeons. It would just go through them before going to the Undercity. After that, short primer of how this weird mechanic works. Let's go through the cards. This card, Band Pauper, apparently. It's a 1/4. When it enters, you take the initiative. Eccentric Apprentice. When it enters, you venture into the dungeon. Which is less good, because it's the dungeon, not the initiative. But, also has the effect, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've completed a dungeon, up to one target creature becomes a bird with base power and toughness on 1 and flying until end of turn. So you can turn off an opponent's card that might have a powerful activated effect, maybe? I don't know. The secondary effect is kind of nice, though. Right? Yeah. I guess you could make one of your own, like, 1/1 soldiers into a 1/1 bird with flying. I don't know. We got the Feywild's Caretaker. When he enters, take initiative. At the beginning of your end step, if you have the initiative, create a 1/1 blue fairy dragon creature token with flying. So, I mean, you're almost always going to have the initiative when you end your turn, because there's no real way for someone to take it on your turn. But, yeah. Mainly, let's be real, it mainly gets played for when it enters, you take initiative. Also 5 mana, 3/4, not the worst thing in the world. Hama Pashar, Ruin Seeker. Room abilities of dungeons you own trigger an additional time. Undercity is a dungeon, so it counts for that. There's just like a good support card for initiative stuff. Emoan, Mystic Trickster, Ward 2, because of course. As the beginning of your end step, if you have the initiative, draw a card. Draw another card if you've completed a dungeon, which is very likely. So, end step, draw 2. Nadar, Selfless Paladin. When he enters, venture into the dungeon, and other creatures you control get +1/+1 as long as you've completed a dungeon. So all your bad statted cards, like the Feywild Caretaker, the Arrow Sneak, they get a little bit better. It's nice. Radiant Solar, this card is kind of wild, but it's 6 mana, so it's a little more balanced. Flying Lifelink, whenever it or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, venture into the dungeon. So if you have this and like a bunch of other things come back with your commander's effect, you're like venturing into the dungeon like 6 times. You're going to complete every dungeon all at once, which is crazy. Servox Tome, when it enters, you take the initiative, and it has tap for 2 if you've completed a dungeon. So this is a 4 mana Soul Ring. Not great, but it enters with initiative, so it's good in the deck. The Seasoned Dungeoneer, this card is pretty crazy. When he enters, take initiative, obviously. Whenever you attack, target attacking cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard gains protection from creature until end of turn. It explores. So the explore mechanic, it's cool. But giving your commander, who is a warrior, protection from creatures guarantees a hit end. So if you flickered the turn before, on your next turn you can attack with them, guaranteed and unflicker if you want. Tomb of Horrors Adventurer. When it enters, you take the initiative, and whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy it. Pretty good. If you've completed a dungeon, copy that spell twice. Even better. And yeah, completing a dungeon, super easy in this deck with all the flicker effects. White Plume Adventurer, when it enters, you take the initiative. At the beginning of your upkeep, untap a creature you control. If you've completed a dungeon, untap all creatures you control. So, this is just a very powerful effect. On to the draw cards. You could probably run much more initiative cards. I wouldn't run too many dungeon cards just because you don't want to get stuck in a dungeon when the Undercity exists. But, I mean, yeah, you could just run even more if you wanted. On to draw. Aether Channeler, it's a strong enter the battlefield draw or another effect, so it's good with Flicker and Abdel just replaying it. Brainstorm is Brainstorm. This card is broken in every format. Inspiring Overseer, when it enters, gain a life, draw a card. This is a very nice utility card. Serum Visionary, a little expensive, being a 3 mana 2/2. When it enters, you draw a card and then you scry 2 so you can know what's coming up on your next turn or whatever. Or if you, I guess, flicker multiple times and get multiple draws. Spirited Companion, I love this little dog. When he enters, draw a card. And Watcher from Tomorrow, not really draw, but like pseudo search. So when he enters, you look at the top 4. When he enters tapped. And when he does, you look at the top 4, exile 1 face down, put the rest bottom of your library. And when he leaves, you put the exiled card into your owner's hand, which is very easy for him to leave because he gets eaten by your commander. On to utility. This is recursion effects or tax effects. So Archaeomancer, you flicker him to bring back a flicker card from your grave. Helps you keep doing your flicker effects without having them all in the grave. Azor the Lawbringer, this is just like a hate card. As in, I hate this card. No, it's a very powerful tax card. When he enters, each opponent can't cast instant sorcery spells during that player's next turn, which very, very good if you're just having him enter every turn through flicker effects or through your commander's effects. Scholarly Ages, this returns 2 instant and or sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand, so you can bring back multiple flicker cards. Sun Titan is just, I feel like, such a staple in almost every white commander deck because the amount of cards you can bring back with it, it's always just very powerful. And especially if you can flicker him with your commander just by himself, getting that effect multiple times a turn is crazy. And then Tax Collector, this is a mini stacks card. When he enters, until your next turn, spells your opponent's cast cost 1 more to cast, which is pretty alright. And it's either that or detain a target creature an opponent controls, which means until your next turn, that creature can attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated, which is a nice effect onto some creatures. I think it's an alright card. You could probably replace this with something else, but it's a little taxy card. It's a little bit of a tax card, and it works with the flicker effect, so I was pretty okay running it. On to removal and protection. This includes counter spells, removal cards. First removal card, Austere Command, great card in the deck. I mean, it's just a really, really solid board wipe, right? So, counter spell. It's counter spell. Dawnbringer Cleric, when it enters, you can either gain 2 life, destroy target enchantment, or exile target card from a graveyard. So it's a little bit of graveyard hate. It's also a bit of enchantment removal, which is nice because a lot of decks don't run enough enchantment removal, I think. Dispel is counter target instant, which is nice because almost every removal card in the format is an instant spell unless it's a board wipe. Dovin's Veto is a good counter spell. Generous Gift is a nice destroy target permanent, so it can hit anything. Negate is negate. Path to Exile is path to exile. Skyclave Apparition is a nice flicker effect removal card, so when it enters, exile a target non-land permanent. This can hit anything, obviously, besides lands, so if somebody's playing a lot of artifacts or enchantments, it's good. Non-token permanent, you don't control, with mana value 4 or less. So obviously it only has 4 or less, but that's fine. When it leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner creates an XX Blue Illusion creature token. Now, typically when you're playing this, you're hitting something that'll be worth more than the XX Blue Illusion creature token that it's going to make when it leaves. So, it's good. Starfall Invocation. This is a really fun one. Gift a card, clear the board. If a gift was promised, return a creature card, put it into the graveyard this way, on the battlefield under your control. So if you have Abdel on board and he's already eaten up a bunch of dudes, he's had his nice fill, you can Starfall Invocation the board, promise to get or gift a card to somebody. Who cares? It's a draw card. It's not that broken in Commander, at least. And then have him. So obviously he dies from Starfall Invocation. All the homies come back. All the homies do their things. Because you gifted a card, he comes back from your grave to the battlefield, eating all the homies again. And then you flicker him after 3 times, and he just goes off. Supreme Verdict. This is kind of just an OG clear the board Azorius card. It's nice. And Swiftfoot Boots. You could probably play Time Wipe instead. Return your commander to hand, which would obviously play out all the cards, and then Time Warp. And Swiftfoot Boots are Swiftfoot Boots. And Swords of Plowshare, Swords of Plowshare. Eternal Wanderer. I love this card. I love its -4. Its -4 is broken. Its +1 can shut off a card from just being able to play the game. I love this card. This is a very, very fun card, and it's probably my favorite Planeswalker to play. Witch Enchanter. This is one of the modal cards that is a land, and it's obviously from Modern Horizons 3, so it's one of the good lands. It also enters Destroy Artifact or Enchantment, which is nice. artifact enchantment removal. On to ramp, there are a few creatures in here for the very strange first time, but Arcane Signet, Azoria Signet is Azoria Signet. Cloud of Fairies when it enters on top 2, so I don't know, you flicker Abdel after you've eaten the Cloud of Fairies, they come back, you untap 2, and you're probably only paying 1 for the flicker effect, so it's a +1 on mana. Commander Sphere is, I don't know, a good card. I do think 3 mana Artifact Rock, or like Mana Rocks, is a little slow, but I don't think it's too bad. The Cantor of Endless Water is also just kind of one, and it stops your max hand size, because I do notice you draw a lot of cards in this deck. Peregrine Drake is same as Cloud of Fairies, except it hits 5 instead. Obviously, it has the steeper on-play mana, but whatever. Soul Ring is played in every deck. Solemn Simulacrum doesn't get the dies effect of drawing a card because it's being exiled by your commander, but apart from that, you are just ramping lands with the ETB. Talisman of Progress is a good mana rock. Flat Vessel, same reason why you're running Decanter, also running Reliquary Tower. And then, yeah, lands, Bounce Land, which honestly I've been kind of low on recently, but I don't think it's that bad. Command Tower, Evolving Wilds, which you can bring back with Sun Titan, mind you, so that's nice. Glacial Fortress is usually just a dual land. I don't know. This is a budget land base, right? So, not gonna see fetches or bond lands or shock lands. Although if you want to upgrade to that, it's very easy to do, especially if you just have them lying around. But yeah, that's literally just the land base. You can obviously, on Architect itself, I changed the category name, but there is a recommend land base section, and yeah. Oh, the new Duskmourn lands are also really good. But yeah, if you want to run that, or yeah, Shock, Bond land. I don't like running Exotic Orchard in commander decks that are less than 3 color. You can if you want to, but I find most of the time it'll only hit 1 of your colors. Slow lands, obviously. I don't know what these lands are called, but sure. If you're playing a lot of basics, Mirrored Landscape. But yeah, onto the sideboard, which is literally just the dungeons. So Dungeon of the Mad Mage is a very, very, very thick dungeon. Now, from what I remember reading, the dungeons, their final effects are very much based on how easy it is to get them. So because this one's so big, its final effect is draw 3, reveal them, cast one of them without paying its mana cost. Pretty good effect. The rest is kind of whatever, but if you have enough setup to get through the dungeons fast enough, it's good. Lost Mine is a pretty alright one. Its final effect is just draw a card, so I probably wouldn't play it. Same with Tomb of Annihilation. Maybe you play the left side of Tomb of Annihilation of each player loses 2 life or discards a card, and then each player loses 2 life unless they sacrifice an artifact or creature or land. The final effect of making a 4/4 token is kind of whatever. Obviously, the Undercity is the main reason why you play this deck. Throne of the Dead 3 is just reveal top 10, put a creature card into play with 3/1 counters against hexproof. Crazy card. Onto the maybe board, which is typically more expensive cards. If you have them, it's not a bad idea to run them. There's also just like some random archetypes in here that I thought about playing. Agent of Treachery, when it enters, gain control of target permanent, and at the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more permanents you don't own, draw 3 cards. If you can figure this guy a bunch and just like get a bunch of permanents, it's very easy to get the draw effect. If not, you're still just stealing cards. Base is a Bounding Spring. I only put this in because I actually pulled it from a Bloombro pack, and it does have a very good ability of when it enters, create treasure if somebody has more lands than you, gain 4 life if somebody has more life, create 2/1/1 blue fish if somebody has more creatures, draw a card if somebody has more cards in hand. There's like 4 checks, which is wild. It's also a 4 mana 4/5, which is a really good body. Cloud Blazer, when it enters, draw 2 and gain 2 life. I was originally playing this, but I think it's a little expensive at 5 mana for the effect, and you have enough life gain and draw in the deck already. Far Traveler, beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target tapped creature you control, then return to the battlefield under its owner's control. I was running this for a very long time, but I find that having Abdel or your commander tapped at the end of the turn is almost unlikely because you're, if anything, flickering him in second combat step, so, or second main after combat, so he's not going to be tapped. You can run Farewell if you want to run another board wipe. It's a great one. I mean, run Psych Rift if you want to run that, you know. There's a bunch of really good board wipes that you can be running instead of what I'm running. Grasp of Fate, I did think about playing the enchantments. For when it enters, for each opponent, exile one target non-land permanent that player controls until Grasp of Fate leaves the battlefield. There's also a really interesting interaction with this where it might be in the rulings, I'm not actually sure. If it leaves the battlefield before its triggered ability resolves, no non-land permanent, no. I know there is an enchantment because I remember watching the card market, I think Baz Legacy deck or one of them, where somebody was playing Terror Initiative or was playing a Miracles deck. I can't remember. But if it enters and then before the ability fully triggers, if you have an exiled card with it and then you somehow exile this, it like doesn't return it to the battlefield. It's a very niche effect. Either way, you can run these if you want to. Inspiring Leader, I was running just because your commander makes a bunch of 2/2 or 1/1 soldiers, so making them all 3/3 is not bad. Journey to Nowhere, a similar enchantment. When it enters, you exile something. Lorne is a great artifact or enchantment removal card. Obviously, the tap to target you and opponent draw a card, kind of whatever. Muldrifter enters, draw 2. The deck's running enough draw. Although you can play him and then for the evoke cost and then flicker him before he dies. You get 2 draw 2s and for like 4 mana, which not bad. Sanctum of Eternity to return commander to hand is a nice extra way to get him to leave the battlefield to get all your guys back out. But for a land it's a little expensive, so I just didn't want to include it. Soul Warden, when a creature enters, you gain 1 life. A lot of creatures are going to be entering through flicker effects, through the tokens that he makes through flicker effects. And then Venser, when he enters, return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. So kind of a pseudo counter spell, but you can also get it through flicker effects. And Veteran Dungeoneer, I mean, that's just, yeah, if you want to run more Venture in the dungeon cards, go for it. Either way, if I look at Rex, honestly, besides just playing cards that have like really, really powerful enter the battlefields, or I mean, Panharmonicon is pretty broken, I guess. Yeah, I mean, if you want to Flicker Wisp, you can run Flicker Wisp. Yeah, there's so many different cards to run. Displacer Kitten's another great example. There's so many great Azorius Flicker cards that you can run. Obviously, this deck is maybe one of the most budget ones I've uploaded. It's actually only $95. This is including basic lands, I believe, because oh wait, no, it's not. Yeah, excluding basic lands, this is an $86 deck on, I believe, Card Kingdom. If you're in the US of A. If you're in Canada, haha, good luck. It sucks here. Someone please make TCG player Canadian. Either way, thank you for watching. Let me know if you want to see Commander for me to build. I have a few thoughts of other decks that I'm working on right now, but they're not really done. So I don't know when those will be uploaded. But yeah, thank you for watching. Goodbye.